Let's see. Okay. Brilliant. I'll share the link after so that you can share with your friends, you can recap and things like that. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. But today, guys, because we have been doing this, have been sitting, it's going to be very, very interactive. Everyone needs to come in. I'm not going to be preaching the gospel. I'm just going to be facilitating a conversation that we need to have. So Tanya, Erica, Taki, Eugene, France, Maya, all of you guys, I need you to bring what's on your thought. What have you found in all these few weeks that you have been going through the case? Some of you have attempted case study before, some have not. It's not a problem. Our case study is about Trimayr, and this has been examined in May, and the last examination is going to be August. As we all know, CIMA uses same person for 2 exam sitting. So we are here because of maybe 3 of these options. So either you are sitting in this class because you got exempted up to the management level, right? So maybe you've come up with another qualification. Or either you've passed your P2, E2, or your F2, or you've passed your operational level. Or you are one of the students who come through the corporate pathway, which uses the work experience to give you exemptions. But I know most of you guys are here because you are on the finance leadership route. So if you're on the finance leadership route, you have completed all your competencies. If you have not completed your competencies, then I'll be honest with you, you are really lagging behind. By now, you should have completed all your competencies. And I'm assuming that you have all booked your exam and we are good to go. So just some few tips that I want to give you guys. If you have received exemptions from all certificate, operational, and management level subjects, I think you have got some work to do in terms of trying to close those gaps that of the knowledge that you've done, that was done in CIMA lower levels. The content is the same from what you might have done at university or whatever. But the CIMA way of assessment that I'm going to talk about is pretty different. And most students, they say CIMA is difficult, though I might have to have a different view on that. I agree in some aspects, but then I also have my own thinking in the other aspects. So I would, what is my recommendation? My recommendation is to make sure that you've gone through P2, E2, F2. However, I don't want you to get stuck into the nitty-gritties of P2, E2, F2. What I want you to do in order to pass this subject is to have a good understanding of the theme topics or the key topics in those subjects. So if you have passed your operational level, you are perfectly fine. There is nothing that you need to do. You just need to do your P2, E2, F2, complete your competencies, and you should be good to go. Especially if you have passed your case study at operational level. It means you know how case study examinations work. So you just need to continue doing what you did in the previous sitting. If you're coming with the corporate pathway route, what I need you to do is to bring your experience from the workplace, which is very, very fundamental. Which is very, very fundamental in terms of answering your exam. What we are going to do in that space is just to try to fine-tune and try to figure out how do we put it in the right way, what I call the CIMA way. Otherwise, you should be fine. But again, there will be some gaps in terms of P2, E2, F2. But guys, what I don't want you to do going into the case study is to go with the P2, E2, F2 strong theory. So the examiner is not interested in that. So when you are doing your competencies, the examiner, yes, he wants you to demonstrate the knowledge. He will give you I'll give you an example. So if you are doing still in your competencies and you're doing E2, for example, you're going to read and learn all about your leadership and managerial theories and things like that. So part of the competencies is to give you a scenario, and then they'll ask you, they'll test your knowledge if you know which leadership style is being described in that theory. then you identify that. That is why most of the questions, they are more multiple choice. So you select the correct answers. But if we flip that same topic on leadership, when we go to the case study, we are not interested in that. What we're interested in is how do we implement, or can you recommend the appropriate leadership style given a scenario? So you are going to be given new material on the exam day. In addition to that, combine it and come up with an answer. So from an F2 perspective, I'll give you another example. You are going to learn about consolidation, for example. So in your competencies, again, you might have to do some calculations and some numbers. We are given all the information, and then you have to do the calculations. But when we go to our case study, we don't want you to do all the calculations for that. That is why the examiner has given you an income statement, they've given you balance sheet, and they've given you maybe a cash flow if it's given, and they've given you all other information. So what we are more concerned is, what is the impact of all the numbers that we are given, or all the scenarios that we are given on our financials? How does it affect our business? How does it affect our business model? What decisions can we make? That's where we want to go with that. So what we need to do, guys, is to forget being a student for CIMA, but I need you to think like a finance manager. So if you are sitting today in this class, let's assume that you are sitting on your desk and you're the finance manager of Trimayr. How are we going to do things as we go along? So if you are writing this exam for the first time, I'm just going to quickly touch that. That's the boring stuff that I was talking about. The exam is 3 hours long. So there is based on pre-seen material and unseen tasks. So pre-seen is what you have got, Trimayr operating in the Desland. But on the exam, then the examiner gives you what you call the unseen material. So it's what we call triggers. So they'll give you information. Now you need to read that information, and then you read the task, and then give it a go. Okay. Focus on applying your knowledge for P2, E2, F2. And again, the key word there is application, not repeating what we have learned in P2, E2, F2. No, we want to go the application route. The 4 sections that you answered, you've got 4 tasks that you have to answer. And on average, you're looking at 20 minutes time. But obviously, there are some tasks that you might find a little bit easier than other. But now, what you also need to know is that the task is there is time for each task. You cannot go and come back. So once you've exhausted your 45 minutes, you go to the next one. Once it's closed, you can't come back. So if you finish early, I would say don't go to the next task. I would say if you've got find yourself with 10 minutes extra or 5 minutes extra or whatever the case might be, try to go back to the material and find out what else can I take and put into my answer. It's not a good recommendation to just say, okay, I'm done with this task 1, I'll go to task 2. The system automatically close you and take you to the next task when you've done. So maximize, utilize your full time. So if you don't pass in August, you've got an opportunity to write again in November. The only difference is that when you write in November, it's going to be a new pre-sim. So it's not going to be Trimayr, but we don't know what is it going to be. There's going to be a new pre-sim being released in September. So what it means is, ideally, this is my personal recommendation. I would say if you write in May, you resit in August if it doesn't work. And if you write in November, resit in February. Why? Because you'll be doing a pre-scene, the same pre-scene. So the preparation becomes a little bit less intense. But if you pass in August, it's fine. If you don't, go it again in November. Okay. So this is the exam format. It's online, computer-based. Again, this is more relevant to someone who has never written the exam before. It's very important that you know you're going to be sitting on the computer. There is no paper-based exam on CIMA now. and you've got your material. There are 4 tasks, 45 minutes each, and a total of 3 hours. So that's some bit of info to know. So the questions that you're going to see, guys, there, that's where I was saying now, I need you to think like a finance manager. The questions, they simulate real business scenario. Why is this important? So I always say, make a joke with the guys that I always help with these exams to say, if you find yourself in the case study exam and you are writing straight content from the textbook in that exam, the probability that you are getting it all wrong is very high, and the chances of getting it right is very low. So I need you to think of, if you are writing a memo or if you are writing a report to your CEO, right? How are you going to write it, and how are you going to write it? You are not going to repeat what is in the P2E2. Think like we are literally running a hair salon. We are literally running a franchise for hair salons. So the terminology, the approach, the language, and how you do things should be reflecting that. So if we take, so the examiner is saying, if I take a script that has been written by Trimayr, for example, and we give it to our team, they should actually feel that she works for this organization. That's what we need. So how are we going to get to that level? So what I need you to do is to understand the CIMA competence framework. Right. So in your answer, you should be able to demonstrate some technical skills. So the examiner is looking for technical skills. The examiner is looking for business skills. So the examiner is looking for people skills and leadership skills, and in all that is looking for your digital skills, your ability to incorporate a digital ecosystem in our franchise model. So what do you mean by technical skills? Your technical skills is when we are able to borrow our knowledge from your P2, E2, F2 and put it there. And business skill is about strategy. So as a finance manager, you are not yet on the board level, but what you are doing, you are translating those long-term strategies or long-term plans into action. That's what you're doing. That's the role of the finance manager. Some of you guys, again, that's what I'm saying. Think of it, you're sitting on your desk. Maybe you're already a finance manager here. So think about what you do. So things that we are going to get all the instructions from the board. You're going to make sure that we implement that. So there are lots, if you go through Trimayr, the franchises, they recruit people, the franchises, they put management, there's an academy, there is inexperienced junior people coming through the apprentice. Apprentice is like what you call, in the South African context, we call it, I know in the UK and other markets, they call it apprentice. But in South Africa, we've got different terms, just running away from me, where you learn on the job. Anyone who can remember what you call it? Part of our skills development. Internship, yes. So we call it internship. So it's part apprentice. When you talking about apprentice in the Trimayr case study, just think of internship from our South African context. That's what they're talking about. So don't be like, what is apprentice now? Okay, the leadership skills, of course, if we are told in the pre-scene that the hair salon, they are run by the owners, but these owners, some of them, they don't have the skills to actually do the hairstyling and things like that. But it's one of the requirements by the franchise model that the owner should be in charge of the operations. Now, but they employ on average 10 people. So how do you lead that team, right? And how do you deal with the network in the franchise model is very, very important. So it takes you to your E2, where you're going to be thinking of leadership styles, think of your management theories and things like that. How do you manage people? Teams is another key topic that need to be worried about. It's also about managing teams. So again, we are going to go into that. To pass this exam, you need to get 80. So obviously, CIMA, they don't tell us it's marked out of 150, and the minimum score to pass is 80. I was talking to someone who got 79 for his exam a few days ago, and it's so painful. So CIMA, they do not have a remark policy. Unfortunately, once they release the results, that's it. They don't have a remark policy. So we just need to get that minimum. And if you want to go over and above 80, then it's also fantastic. Let's go over and above the 80. Okay. Any more boring stuff? So this is an example that I've extracted just for someone who have not seen the exam before. So this is how your exam will look like. Okay, this exam, I think, extracted from a past paper where there is the unseen material, which will be below this, but this is how there is a task, and that task is broken down into two. So we have got the task A with 60% and task B with 40%. And the question that I always get asked with students is, how much should I write in the 60%? How much should I write in the 40%? There is no golden rule in terms of so much points to write, but I recommend that you read the question carefully. Most of these questions, in the task A, there will be more than one requirement. Or in task B, it can also be more than one requirement. So let's look at this one. It says, I need you to draft a report that recommend. So what we are doing, guys, we are giving recommendation for each accounting treatment of each element of the work done to date on trans. Right. Identifying any additional information that you require in order to finalize. So we need to come up with recommendation, and we also need to identify any additional information. So as long as you can have those in your answer, you should be good to go. If you approach it like one question, then you might not get it right. But we are going to do a question today, and then we can see how we can approach these questions. But on average, try to look for 5 points in a 60% subtask A. If you come up with 5 points, if you guys are following the classes on the FLP portal, they also recommend that if you come up with 5 points that are explained and applied to the material, you should score your 60%. So apply to your 40%, again, 5 points will do. The whole idea is not on the quantity, but it's on the quality. The approach being, you need to identify the points, you need to explain the points, and you need to apply to the pre-seen. This is my recommendation. Before you move to the next point that you want to write, ask yourself, if I applied to the case study, how do you know if you have done the application? Ask yourself, if I mentioned something that is happening in the pre-seen, if I mentioned what Trimayr is doing, or if I give a recommendation, what Trimayr could do. A recommendation is not in the pre-seen. A recommendation is you are the finance manager. We are faced with this scenario. We have this contract that we are considering pursuing. Do you think we should go for it? If you say, yes, this is a good contract, what are the reasons behind your recommendation? If you think it's not, what are your reasons why you think it's not a good contract to pursue? That's what recommendation. So, guys, what I'm trying to emphasize is think outside the box. Write things that have got nothing to do with P2E2F2 content, but that is something that you could have done if you are working for Trimayr on the day. So if you are running one of the franchise yourself, you've got your small little high street on the low end market, is situated somewhere in Johannesburg. What would you have done? What could you do? What would you have done differently? That's what the examiner is looking for. So again, we are going to have a conversation of that. I'll do the talking a bit, but pretty soon I'm going to bring you in. So how do you get to that point where we are so confident? I need you again to understand the core activities. Your exam is derived from the core activities, right? So they are, if you read the exam guide, it takes off the I can statements. If you don't have that, I can share with you. So again, I also want you to, have you guys seen what is called the Pro Efficiency Guide? The Pro Efficient Guide. The Pro Efficient Guide is a guide that was released by CIMA. Let me see if I've got it. Have you guys seen the Pro Efficient Guide?
No, I haven't seen it.
I think I've got it. I think I've got it somewhere. Let me see quickly if I've got the Pro Efficient Guide. Pro Efficient Guide management level. Put it in the chat box there. So I've just sent it on WhatsApp. So this guide is a nice one if you are preparing for a case study, because it kind of tells you what the examiner is looking for, what are the common mistakes that students make. It has got some recordings links in it, so just open on those headphones icon and it will open for you. Then you can listen to that. You can do that in your spare time. No need to worry about that. I've just shared it. So spend some time working through the Pro Efficient Guide. It gives you some tips here and there. So core activity A, what are we talking about? So in core activity A and B, I'm going to summarize them together. So A and B, we are going to evaluate opportunities to add value, and then we are going to implement senior management decisions. And in our material, we are given the board. We are going to talk about it today. The board. So A and B, basically, what is likely to come out? What is the examiner likely to ask you to do there? So if you are evaluating opportunities, the examiner is saying, we are Trimayr, we know our business model, but there might be opportunities as to maybe move from leasing to buying buildings, or should we let owning our own stores? There could be some contracts that are coming up and things like that. So potential areas where the examiner is going to ask you to look at things like investment appraisal. So in your investment appraisal, what topics comes into mind, guys, if we are talking about investment appraisal?
Key performance. What's it? Key performance metrics.
Okay, so I'm thinking NPV, IRR, payback period, ARR, accounting, what?
Accounting
ARR. Yeah, I just got stuck, which is quite similar to ROCE. Yeah.
Yeah, so exactly. So there, what the examiner is going to do is going to test your knowledge on net present value, NPV, or IRR, or payback period, and so forth. But looking at, I'm not spotting, just a disclaimer, looking at the most practical. You guys are in the industry already. You know, NPV is the most used, then payback, of course, and IRR. But the examiner is not going to ask you to do calculations on that. No. The examiner needs to evaluate what are the pros and the cons of using, or what are some of the pros, cons, or the challenges associated with using net present value to evaluate a potential investment that we want to do. If you can know that, you should be comfortable. No calculations are required. I would say, guys, there is 99% that you don't need to do calculations there. 1% will leave it there. What we are going to do, we are going to do the calculations, as part of our preparation, for example, we need to know our gearing, we need to know our ratios and things like that. But we need to have that information at the back of our mind so that when we are explaining, for example, we're talking about funding next week. We're talking about funding. Then you're talking about maybe borrowing from the bank. We know our current gearing. Then we can now recommend to say, given our current position, borrowing is not ideal. It's going to increase our gearing, which will not be. It will look. It's good on the face of the business, but from a shareholder perspective, it's not a good thing. So we are not going to do calculations, but know the pros, know the cons, know the challenges associated with using net present value on all these payback period, IAR, and all that thing. That's what we need to do there. And then when you're implementing senior decision, again, you'll be asked to do some recommendation there. Once you go to your C, D, and E, core activity C, D, and E, it's all about managing and measuring performance, right, in creating value. So when you are managing and you are measuring performance, what you are going to do is the examiner is asking for is for you to bring in your commercial acumenship. By commercial acumenship, I'm saying you sitting there and we are saying we are running these franchise models and you've got these hair salons scattered all over Dasland, right? So how are we going to, or you're running your own salon, how do you manage and measure performance? So what it does, it brings in aspects of shareholders and also an aspect of stakeholder needs. Part of the performance management is the ability of the business to satisfy the needs of our shareholders and the needs of our stakeholders. So key topics that the examiner's favorite is on key performance indicators. How do you measure performance? So let's have a conversation. If you are the finance manager for Trimayr, how do you measure the performance of this business? What are some of the key performance indicators that we are given some in the pre-scene, but I want a general broad perspective of how do we measure performance? Which models, which topics, which area of your P2E, E2, F2 are you going to jump into, or that quickly flashes into your mind? Let me close this, people's making noise. Let's have a conversation, guys. We are starting now to get into it. If you are doing this, which topics comes into your mind?
So, Louis, when I think about your financial KPIs, the first thing that comes to mind is profitability, right? How profitable our franchises are. The more profitable they are, the better royalties we are able to get. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Anyone else, the different perspective or contribution?
Thank you, Ross. So I'm thinking about the non-financial KPIs, for instance, your customer satisfaction, the quality of, obviously it will go hand in hand with customer satisfaction, but the quality of the product in the salon itself, which will be obviously the hairstyling and all of that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So exactly. So guys, what the examiner is going to do, when I was going through this material, I got so fascinated. I'm like, so what they have done there, if you have seen on what page is it, where they talk about KPIs, they have given you a set of KPIs there. But if you look at them, most of them, they are non-financial, like what you just said. So they've just given you a drop on page 11. They've just given you a drop of the KPIs, which for me, it leaves it open for a good question to come from there. For me, I think the examiner will be interested to know, to test your knowledge on, do you know your financial and non-financial KPIs that can be used in this scenario? But they won't leave it open. Normally what they do, they give you in that unseen or in the trigger, they'll give you a trigger which is asking for specific KPIs, because the way students we normally fall short is then we just go and give in all the KPIs that we know. But the examiner the question again will direct you on which KPIs should we put in there. But what do we do in the meantime? In the meantime, what we need to do is to understand both our financial and our non-financial KPIs. And a good area to go to develop KPIs, I would say, look at your key success factors. That's your E2 that is coming into perspective here. And go and look at the balanced scorecard. You know the 4 dimensions of the balanced scorecard? Do you guys remember the balanced scorecard, the 4 perspectives on the balanced scorecard?
Yes.
Let's have a conversation. Yeah, let's just quickly put them down. Which ones are there?
Customer and stakeholder.
So we've got customer perspective, yeah?
Stakeholder, and then there's internal processes.
Internal processes, internal growth and processes, yeah?
Learning and growth.
Learning and growth, yeah? And last one?
Oh, I forgot this. Yeah.
Competitors.
Let's go again. Not exactly. It's the most important, guys.
Financial performance.
Yeah, it's the financial perspective where we are looking at the money side, right? So a balanced scorecard, I always use it, and I always recommend students to use it as a tool to brainstorm or to come up with your key performance indicators. And then we can break it down. Normally the examiner, my experience is that they want to break it down into financial and non-financial. And the difference being the financial looks at the money side of the business, and the non-financial, like the other person was explaining. So look at your from your KPIs, from your what do you call it, financial perspective. When you're looking at core activity B, C, and D, C, D, and E, look at the revenue per saloon. That's a good measure. So if you want to measure the performance, you look at the revenue that is being generated by the saloon. So what is the purpose and what is the recommendation there? So if you are the financial manager, you want to know the number or the total number of saloons in an area, and you want to know how much each is making. Right. You also want to look at the profit margin. Is a good one to look at. The profit margin, how much profit percentage are we generating from our revenue? But we know from our F1, with F1 knowledge, we know the difference between our revenue and our profit. We also want to look at revenue growth. Year on year, how are we doing year on year? Or how are we doing month on month? Especially in these small saloons, month on month is very important. Why? If you go down reading through your pre-scene, we are going to scan through it, but that's why I say no need to read line by line. If you scan through, you'll see that they use leases, right? So if you are on a lease, that means you are paying your rentals every month. And month-on-month revenue is very, very important. Your ability to pay your short-term obligations, your rentals, your salaries, and any other cost is determined on how much revenue and how much profit you are making. So that's very, very important. Then if you can also look at how much our cash flow, right? Our cash flow, the difference between how much is coming in and how much is coming out. That's again another good KPI. You could look at other KPIs, cost of goods sold, costs that we are incurring that are associated with running our business. We are going to look at the value chain. In our inbound logistics, we are going to be buying shampoos and all the equipment that we use on a daily. So again, those are key KPIs that we can look at it. And then non-financial, you want to say something?
No, Louis, I just wanted to say, like, the way I've been thinking about it when I think, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay, sorry. I thought that if they ever asked for the financial KPIs, I always thought that I would just for me to remember quickly, or like coming up with them quickly, I would just relate them to the ratios that we've been learning, like your DSOs and your stuff like that. Isn't that an easier way to remember them, or they have to be a bit more specific?
No, it's that's what I say. It's so broad. So if you are sitting there, if I'm sitting there, Chuck is sitting there, Eugene is sitting there, Eric is sitting there, we are going to have different ways of remembering. Ratios is another perspective that you can use to remember them. So if you want to use the ratio way, what I normally do is to say, remember the categories of the ratios, right? You have got, let's say, profitability ratios. We have got investor ratios. We have got efficiency ratios and all those. So if you can remember the categories of those ratios, yes, you can use that approach because it's almost the same thing.
Okay. Okay.
And also remember, guys, there are hundreds and thousands of correct answers that examiners see. So when they give you when you're doing your mock exams on the portal, when they give you the suggested answer, don't look at your answer and say, "Oh, I'm far from what they are saying." No. So you will find that they might say you have passed, but you look at your answer and what they're saying, it's not word by word or very close. But does it make business sense? That's the question. Does it make business sense given what you have been? So there are hundreds of answers there. And if we write an answer now, I give you a question now, all of us are going to write differently, but maybe all of us will pass as long as we are addressing and we are providing solutions to the challenges or the opportunities that we are given there. Okay, non-financial KPIs. We talk about customer satisfaction score, number of complaints that might come there. We can look at if you read through the material, they say in customers, if you look at the customer behavior, customers, they tend to go to the hair salons where they've developed personal relationship with the staff there. So again, it's very, very important to understand that we can easily lose customers if we don't deliver good service, good quality there. But again, we can look, how do we measure? We can measure the percentage of returning customers versus the percentage of acquiring purely new customers. We can also want to look at staff turnover, how we are getting, how long our employees are staying with us before they go in there. So some of aspects to look at this. But again, as we go along, we are going to be touching on bits and pieces of all this. Okay. So that's just an expansion of your core activity. So why have I put it here? I just put it here so that what I need you to do is to take each core activity and say, what are the topics that I should be familiar in this aspect? Right? Then you do that on A, on B, on C, on D, on E. Ask yourself, what are the topics that I should be familiar with? So still under core activity B, C, D, and E. There is, in E, we are saying manage internal and external stakeholders. Let's have a quick chat. What is a stakeholder, guys? Obviously, if you are going to be managing a stakeholder, we need to know the first thing is what is a stakeholder? And then we can go one step further. What is internal stakeholder? One step further, what are external stakeholders? Let's have a quick conversation. What is a stakeholder?
It's
Well, I would. Okay.
you can go, Samaya.
It's fine, you can go. Okay, I would define a stakeholder as someone that has direct interest within the company, whether it be financial or other factors.
Okay, brilliant. I'll take that. Guys, let's all come to the party. I don't want to talk to Taki and Sumaya only. I need to hear from Martha. I need to hear from Isona. I need to hear everybody else. Okay, so someone with interest, Taki, you want to add something there?
If I can maybe just add,
Yeah.
maybe to make it more broader, it is maybe an individual, group, or an organization that has interest or is affected by the activities of the company.
Yeah, perfect, fantastic. So definitely that's it. So it's an individual. You're right, Sumaya, but just broaden it a bit. Is either it's an individual or it's a group of people that have got interest. That's number one. So they might not own the saloon, but they are interested in the operations of the saloon. Their interest is vested on the operations and the financial performance of that business. So a stakeholder, look it from this perspective. They can either affect or they can be affected by the operations of the business. So it's very, very important when we are managing stakeholders, there is one key model that comes into mind from your E2 perspective. Which model do you refer to when you are discussing stakeholder management?
Potters? Is it Potters?
Potter's got so many models, like so many. It's got the Potter value chain, Potter 5 forces, Potter, which the Potter diamond and all that. Which one?
Potters
Or,
5 forces.
no, we are going to use Potter 5 forces for industry analysis. I'm looking for the one for stakeholder management. It's not by Potter. It's from E2, guys. Very, very popular concept from P2. And again, when you are in the exam and you are discussing stakeholders, it's a one model that you should remember because of two things that are discussed in that model. Have you heard about Mandela stakeholder matrix?
Yes.
Yes. So we want to refer when you are on core activity D and E, and we are managing internal and external stakeholders. Let's refer to
The hierarchy.
Maslow hierarchy. No, Maslow hierarchy is on motivation, which is something we'll talk about later. We're talking about Mandela's stakeholder matrix. Google it.
For the power, interest, and
yes, exactly. That's what I'm looking for. So we are looking at power and interest. How much interest do they have in our business? How much power do they have? So if they've got, so now in it has got 4 blocks. So you need to ask yourself, how much power and how much interest do they have? If they've got high power and high interest and high power, those are critical to our business, and we need to get them in, keep them informed, get them involved in everything we do. But if it's like a customer and they would low power, low interest, we just keep them informed, but we don't worry too much where they they've got no power to affect our business. If you scroll down to the right at the end of your pre-scene, there are some news articles there. So articles there that talks about should be an apprentice and this first day at work and things like that. The examiner gives you that information for a purpose. So every sentence that the examiner gives you there, don't ignore it. They throw it there because it's a potential area where they can generate a question from. So how do you manage apprentice? Because they are a stakeholder. How do you manage hairdressers? How do you manage the academy? How do you manage the government? Because we are told that there's regulation in Desland. So we need to, now what we need to do is to break down, to split our stakeholders into 2, internal and external. So when you look at internal stakeholders, you're talking about those that are directly affected by the operations of Trimayr, and normally we find them inside our business. And external, they are outside. It could be the government, for example, is an external stakeholder. Suppliers are connected stakeholders and things like that. So again, why am I repeating this? I just want to poke those holes to say, go into these core activities and make sure you're comfortable on, ask yourself on this core activity A, what are the topics that I should be familiar with? right? So like you took capital investment, that's your NPVs and things like that. Pricing strategies, explain which, know your pricing models. We are given, there are 3 segments. That's 3 market segments in Dazzleland. We are told about the high-end market, and you are told the middle-end market and the low-end market. And Trimayr has got the Pro and the Shin, which focus on the high and the medium. They don't operate in the low-end market, Trimayr. So again, if you're operating in the high-end market, what pricing strategy are you going to adopt? If you're in the middle end, what pricing strategy are you going to adopt? Then a potential question from the examiner is, we are in these 2 markets. Now, maybe on this day of the exam, the examiner can say, oh, our marketing manager, Mr. So-and-so, is just returned from an expo where he learned, they were discussing about what. Now, they are considering going into the opening, extending their franchise to operate in the low-end market. Now, you need to recommend whether it's a good strategy to go into the low-end market. And your answer will be guided by our business model, which we are going to talk about pretty soon. Okay, so again, go into that, into all this and do that. Okay, so I have put something here, understanding your role as the finance manager, but I think we have already touched on that. But what I want us to do here is, so guys, we know every time CIMA is going to release a pre-sin, there are some things that do not change in the pre-sin. They are going to give you the business model. In fact, they'll give you the background of the company. They will tell you the industry. They'll give you the board structure. They'll give you the financials, your income statement, your balance sheet, and they give you news articles. That does not change. Your role at management level, every sitting, it does not change. You still remain the finance manager. So therefore, what changes? What changes? Why is it therefore difficult to pass these exams? What changes is just in the company that they are going to give you, which is the industry. So now we are dealing with this hairdressing or salons franchise. Next, in the next pre-sin, they might give us a manufacturing company for bread. Or next thing, they might give us a company that does window glazing. Or they might give us an education institution. Or they might give us a football company. I think 3 years, 4 years ago, there was one for a strategic level, which was a football company, a football club. Very fascinating. But what you need, therefore, is to say, as a take those generic responsibility of the finance manager and then adopt them to say, now, in the franchise model of a hair salon company, that's what I need you to do. To say, whenever you are explaining things or all these tasks, remember the industry that you are operating in and apply accordingly. That's very, very important, because most of the things, they don't change. Look back on all the case studies, they are the same, but industry changes. So which means the skills that you need to demonstrate now, your people skills, your business skills, your digital skills should be relevant to the pre-sin that you've got here. So a bit of boring stuff there. I'm not going to read this. These are some of the role of a finance manager. There, we are evaluating opportunities. Definitely, they will give you, at some point at management level, they are going to ask you about a contract that needs to that is being considered, or some sort of opportunity that being presented, and you need to comment whether it is something worth pursuing and things like that, using your investment appraisal, your business model, and things like that. All right. So if you have not written the CIMA exams and it's your first time, expect to see this kind of questions. You are going to either to ask to write an email, to write a report, or to write a briefing note. The calculation-based task, the calculations are done. We are going to do it prior, but they will need some explanation and recommendation. And they are also going to be, there is also going to be likely to be some questions on ethics and corporate governance. Ethics and corporate governance. Let's do another quick one. Do you guys still remember this? The code of the CIMA code of ethics? I think there are 5. Anyone who can remember the CIMA code of ethics?
Professionalism,
Professionalism, yeah.
objectivity,
Yes.
competency, integrity.
Professional competence, yeah, and then integrity, yeah.
There's another one, starts with a P.
Professional behavior. So the examiner is not going to ask you to repeat them what you are doing now. But if you don't know them, how are you going to apply them? So our starting point is to know the code. The ethics is a big topic. Ethics in corporate governance. So where do they come up with those questions? In your case study, I can't remember what page it is because I'm not looking at it now, but there is a page where there is a structure for the board. That's where corporate governance and ethics issues come from. So they are going to give you page 11 as well. Is it page 11, Taki? Page 14. So they will ask you some of the decisions that needs to be done. Maybe a contract nurse, someone who's related to one of the executive directors wants to join the franchise model and is being given a discount and things like that. And they'll ask you questions on that. Then you need to therefore use this code of ethics to say, in terms of integrity, we need to be we need to demonstrate high level of honesty and being straightforward in all dealings. If you go down, guys, to the right at the bottom of the case, there is a story about this apprentice who is saying on his day 2, he was asked to do some stuff for the client. And the client said he wants to look like a news reader, a prominent news reader. Now it's testing the integrity of the apprentice. Definitely, you should be straightforward to say, you know what, I've never done such hairstyles. I'm still an apprentice because I'm still learning, right? So instead of just going in there, so you demonstrate to the examiner that I know what the integrity means. And in this scenario, what is the apprentice supposed to do? That's what the examiner wants to hear. So before you leave that question, make sure you have made a recommendation to say the apprentice is still on the learning curve, is not inexperienced. Therefore, coming up with these hairstyles for this popular news reader is going to be difficult. So it makes sense for the apprentice to be open to the customer to say, I'm still an apprentice, I'll give it a try, but I've never done this. So in so doing, you are demonstrating your integrity, right? You are also demonstrating your competence in that space. I hope we are picking one or two things that I'm trying to highlight in this space. Okay. This page, you can take a picture if you want. For me, again, another important one. What do we know as you go through your pre-sim? I need you to take this and say, review each piece of information, whatever the examiner is given you there, what CIMA has given you, review it. Ask yourself, what does this information mean? Why did they give it to me? And what are some of the key issues and their implications to Trimayr? That's very, very important. As you navigate through each paragraph, ask yourself, what does this information mean? Why is it given to me? And what are some of the key issues that I can pick up from there? And how do they apply or how do they affect Trimayr? Okay. Then try now to do and link them to P2, E2, and F2. That's your core subjects. As you are reading, as you are going through, we are going to do it today. As you are reading each paragraph, does this relate to P2? this relate to E2 or F2? Very, very important. And Sumaya, just to come back to what you said earlier, carry out financial analysis, right? Go into your balance sheet and do your ratios. Go in your income statement and do your ratios, your financial analysis. One of the financial analysis very important is your ratios. What you're going to be doing is the answers that you get to your ratios that I'll give it to you or can give it to you, Farai or myself. We have done the ratios, we'll give it to you. One of the things that we're going to do is we are going to use the answers that we have done there to make recommendations. To say our gearing is so high, therefore going for a bank loan is not ideal, it's going to further inflate our gearing. Okay. Also do a pest analysis, 5 forces, we are going to look at that. And anything of relevance important. Look at the industry and what is the market share of Trimayr vis-a-vis other companies in there we are going to do. So these are the key aspects when you are analyzing your pre-scene. Do a bit of research on the franchise model for hair salons just to get a good understanding. But again, just a bit, the examiner does not expect you to be an expert in this hair salon business. No. This pre-scene gives us context that gives the examiner a basis for generating questions and for you to apply. We are not expected now to go and be like experts in this industry. No, not at all. Okay, and to round off with, let's look at the golden rules. Well, I call them the golden rules, but because I say know these. Be familiar with the pre-scene. I have written all my 3 case studies for CIMA, and I can tell you one thing that I did well, and that I've spoken to so many guys who have done it. You read this pre-scene until you know it like so much. On the day of the exam, it's given to you. It's there on your computer, but you won't have a chance to open on it. If you have written this exam before, you agree with me. So know it. Where is my business model? Where is my financials? Where is my news articles? And things like that. Just know where it is. Plan your answer. What do you mean by planning your answer? When you do a mock exam, I'm going to also give some tips on how you can do it. Read your question very carefully and then type in, right? Obviously, if you're at an exam center, they give you a notepad where you can write, but I prefer you to just go into that section of the answer and type in your headings. It's very important to put your headings and your subheadings so that when you start typing, it's there already. There is always a danger of forgetting stuff if you don't put them down. So type them down in there and then expand them. And look at point number 3. Relate your answer to the pre-scene. Make sure it reflects your role in the organization. So speak and write like a finance manager. If you speak like a finance officer, you are actually losing it. It's operational level. Speak like a CFO, again, you are not there yet, so you might lose it as well. And something fascinating, try to always mention the name of the organization in every paragraph that you write. That's what I was saying. If you write about managing people, then tell us how Trimayr is managing its employees. If you are talking about funding, tell us what are the funding options available for Trimayr. If you're managing your stakeholders, who are the stakeholders for Trimayr? So tell us the stakeholders for Trimayr are this and this and that, and they've got high power, low interest. Therefore, Trimayr should keep them informed and get them involved in everything that they do. That's how you should do it. If you don't include Trimayr you are going generic, and the examiner doesn't want a generic answer. The examiner wants an answer that is speaking to Trimayr. Okay. So then the basic boring stuff, we are all working here, guys. We know how to write an email, we write a report. It's very important that you just use the format. Right? Use headings. Don't write everything in one. Just type continuously. No. That's why I said in point 3, in point 2, plan your answer. Put your headings so that you can have all your answer is neat and there's logic in your answer there. Okay. Where relevant, you won't be penalized by the last point. Where relevant, refer to real life example from your research. But if you look at the first page 1, it tells you that it's not a requirement then. Okay, so that's the bit of the boring stuff that I wanted to share with you guys. Any questions before? I want to first give you what I've picked up as what topics from this pre-scene, and then we can therefore go into the pre-scene and go and do some analysis of the pre-scene. Anything of interesting so far? Any questions, guys? Anything of interesting? Anything that you find fascinating? Jackie said, nope, so far so good, I guess. Martha, if I mention your name, I'm not putting you on the spot, guys, but I just wanted to say something. Martha, what's happening?
Apologies, man. I've got flu, so that's why I'm so quiet. But nothing on my side so far.
Okay, so
But
far so
thank you
good.
for I think maybe if you can just elaborate when you mentioned a very important point where you said if you can answer the question as a CFO, you are losing it, or if you can go lower. So what is the right way of answering the questions?
You are the finance manager. That's the right way. So
but give us an
right,
example. Like when you said answer like a CFO, you're losing it. Then I'm like, okay, you need to
so
give us
okay.
an
So
example.
if you are a CFO, obviously you are formulating. Is it CFOs? They formulate strategies. They are sitting on the board. The CFO sit on the board, right? They formulate strategies. Our role is to implement the strategies. Is to translate those long-term goals, execute them. That's where we are sitting as the finance manager.
Okay, I hear you. Thanks.
Vuyo, anything interesting or anything fascinating?
Not yet.
Not okay. Tanya, anything interesting?
No, also not yet from my side.
Okay, right. Okay, so just before we go for a break, I know you have been listening for me for long. This first part is always me talking. The second part, I'll bring you most of it. So these are the topics that I have looked through this and I said, we need to know this if we are going to do it. I'm going to put a disclaimer, guys. I'm not saying these are the only thing that you need to know. I'm saying they are going, they are featuring they're featuring more in and everywhere. As you go through the material, they feature more. So what I want you to do is I'm going to just do a bit of, okay, this and that and that and that. So number 1, integrated reporting. It's a hot topic across mostly management level and strategic level. So there is an aspect there of Trimayr Academy. They've got an academy. So what we need to do is to ask ourselves and to consider where the elements of this business model could be reflected in our integrated report. So what I need you to do, if you are going to write down, is to look at integrated reporting, and I need you to look at the 6 capitals of integrated reporting. And then you need to ask yourself, I don't have an answer for that, but I need to ask yourself, how would the Trimayr Academy be reported? We need to be able to do some research there. How would you report Trimayr Academy? So as part of under integrated reporting. Then sources of finance is number 2. Quickly there. Sources of finance, if Trimayr decides to do some investments, what are the sources of finance that are available to Trimayr? Given that it's a franchise model, what are some of the sources of finance that these business owners could get finance from? Okay, financial and non-financial performance indicators. I think we've already touched on that, so we should be good on financial and non-financial. But again, here specifically non-financial because there's a mention in the pre-scene on that. We also want to look on something on revenue recognition. Revenue recognition is IFRS 15. And still on that, I think on leases, we also need to look at leases. Leases is IFRS 16. Again, I need to tell you something, guys. Do not worry about reading the entire IFRS 16 or IFRS 15 of revenue recognition and try to know it inside. No, know the basics, know the theme of how do we recognize revenue from the academy, from the lease agreements and things like that. Then number 5 talks about management and leadership styles. Think of your the owner, the founder, and the hair salon owners. How do they manage their businesses? There are different management styles and leadership styles and management theories given the business environment. You're looking at your autocratic, democratic, laissez-faire, that's E2 there, situational, and all those. Your motivation, which is number 6, Maslow, someone's talking about Maslow, your contingents, your handspake, your ERG models, and things like that. Go and revise that. This business, they rely so much on suppliers of hair products. So negotiation is a highly examinable area. The negotiation process, how do you negotiate? Right? It's very important because they're dealing with suppliers. How do they negotiate contracts? And again, they lease the buildings that they are using are being leased. So they negotiate leases. Again, it's very important to negotiation skills, challenges in negotiations, how to overcome them, and things like that. Value chain again looks from how do we get our raw materials or ingredients or whatever we use in the business from the suppliers until delivering out the final product, which is the hairstyles and things like that. And ratio analysis, stakeholder analysis, data analysis. From the pre-scene, we are told about BIS, they've got a business information system. So they are already using technology, Trimayr, they're using technology, and how can they use it to improve their business? What other recommendation can you put through from a technology perspective? Then long-term decision-making is your investment appraisals and things like that. So this is some of the stuff that I wanted us just to give you. As we go along, we'll be touching on all of them, but why I'm giving it to you so that we have got them, and when you go home in your own time, you can actually go one by one looking at each of them and asking yourself, before you move from each of these, ask yourself, how does it apply to Trimayr? And what can we do as the finance manager? What are the recommendations that I can put forward on these aspects? Okay, so let's take a break here. And when we come back, let me stop sharing that. When we come back, we therefore go straight into Trimayr. Let me put this one up. Where's Trimayr? Okay, let's take a break. And then when we come back, then we can go straight into our Trimayr pre-scene. Any questions before we go for a quick break? I think we need to clear our throat, have some coffee or something like that.
What time do we come back, Louis?
Let's take a 15, let's come at 10:30. 18 minutes back, 10:30 will do. So let's take a break and come back at 10:30. I'll see you pretty soon.
Lewis?
Okay. Are we all back? Lovely. Jack is back. Are we all back? Yeah. Smart is here. Erica is here. Fantastic. So I want to do something before we start here. Give me a moment so that when it comes to that point, we won't have any problem. It's one thing that I want to share with you. Can I share here? Okay, I can actually share here. Okay. My computer. Okay, there's something that I just shared with you. Just keep it. I'm going to need it, not now, but we will need it. Okay, I just shared something there. It's a question that I've just shared. Just keep it for now, and I'll tell you what we are going to do with it. So let's quickly go into it. Trimayr is here. We are given the context statement. It's absolutely not new. Every paper comes with this instruction here. We are not expected to factor the changes that are currently happening. So no worries about that. So every pricing start with this table of contents, tells you where do we find what. Right. So we are told here, Trimayr franchise hairdressing salons throughout Dazaland, its home country, also owns a small number of salons. So they own a small number of salons and they franchise hairdressing salons throughout Dazaland. And we are told that the currency in the Dazaland is the D dollar. And the company is required by law to prepare their financial statement in accordance with IFRS. It's very, very important in terms of our F2 knowledge. You are the finance manager, your role and responsibility and all that stuff. What I want us to just know there is that you report to Megan Connor. the senior finance manager who reports directly to the finance director. So why is the examiner giving you this information? On the exam day, you are highly likely to see that your triggers, the assigned material, is likely to be coming from these two people, the finance manager, which is Megan Connor, the senior finance manager, Megan Connor, or the finance director. And they'll be able to say, can you just write me a quick report about this and that? Or they could be asking you, there is something that they've just figured out, or there is a contract that they want to go into. Can you give your recommendation or any ideas? That's why we are given who report to that. Okay. And we are told here there are 52,000 salons, including barber shops. So obviously there is services for male and female. Very important for us to know. Most of them, they operate independently. It means decision making. They make their own decisions. In terms of staffing, 80% of them, they staff less than 10 people. Okay, some bigger businesses, they operate more than one salon. Just need to know that. And here we're just images that are given, just given us. Nothing hectic here. What the hairdress, the salons, they offer cutting, coloring, chemical highlights. Nothing interesting there. They use, it says, salon often stock hair products for retail to customers. This includes shampoo, hair conditioner, hairspray, styling. I'll pause there. If I'm going through the pre-scene, I'll be very fascinated to say, okay, these salons, they stock these. Where do they get from? Which is the supplier. So there could be issues in terms of supplier relationships here. How do they manage those supplier relationships? Okay. What is the benefit of selling these in addition to what we do? Is it in line with our business model that we are going to see on page 11 just now? Okay. And there's a sentence here which says hair care products sold by salons are usually brands that are not available in supermarket. Okay. So if I think of my E2 here, if we are selling products that are not available in supermarkets, that's a source of differentiation. So how do this salon differentiate themselves? They make sure that the product that they are selling is not easily available in supermarkets. So that attracts customers to go to the hair salon, but they are looking for something unique that is not available in supermarkets. Okay. I'll keep on going. I'm not going to go sentence by sentence, guys. You know all the stuff. Salons benefit from the fact that customers' hair must be cut regularly. It means there is repeat businesses because people go there maybe every 2 weeks or after a month. There's a repeat business. But in terms of customer behavior, once they like a specific salon and a specific hairdresser, then you find that they go to that same place over and over again. So again, in terms of our relationship with customers, we need to make sure that we develop strong relationships, as highlighted by this sentence here. Okay. It says most salons here welcome both male and female, despite the fact that women hairstyles usually take longer to cut than men. Okay, nothing there. Right, our market segments, I've mentioned about that. We've got some salons, they attract up market. So if you are dealing up market, I think it makes sense that you charge premium prices because the type of customers, male and female, that are going to come, they are willing to pay a little bit more. Then we also have customers who prepare to pay less. That's the lower end. And we are told these salons are often located, the up market here are located in retail spaces such as city centers and exclusive shopping malls. And we know it. Who visit these exclusive shopping malls? The images here, they give you something. So the examiner is not just giving images for that, but look at the layout and the designs of these three images. This first image here, and look at the second image here, and the third image here. The third image here, you can see it's a straight up high street hair salon, you don't expect too much there, but you can get a nice haircut. But if you want a nice, good and full experience, then this upmarket. So with upmarket, then you put the mid market here. It says mid market, and then you have the down market, which is customers that are willing to pay just minimum fees there. So, and then this year we talk about the. It says here, in theory, it's possible to start work as a hairdresser in Dazzle without any specific training and qualifications. However, if you try to link this without any specific training and qualification, you are likely to find yourself working in the down market here. If you are the owner of this up market here, you know that the type of clients that you are attracting there, they are looking for quality. And beyond just the quality of their hair being cut or being styled, they are looking for an environment that gives them that exquisite feeling when they are sitting in there. So it's very important to link that everything that comes here, health and safety and all that. There is nothing really to talk about here. Just go ahead. College, we spoke about hairdressers and barbers and hairdressers, they go for a 2-year college degree. So in European markets, I was doing some research that actually in countries like the UK and the US, actually people go to be trained as hairdressers, and it's a 2-year course with practicals at college, or apprentice, which you say internship. Okay, so then we've got the franchise, a bit of about the franchise there. It says franchise are used, they are permitted to operate using their branding and other intellectual properties. If you don't know how a franchise model works, think of McDonald's, think of KFC, just to bring it home, just to know how the franchise model works, to say what can you do, what can you not do. So if you're under a franchise model, then you are going to follow the guidelines for the franchise. For example, the salon internal and external signage and decor, staff uniform, brochures, they must show the franchisee logo. It means it shows Trimayr logo and brand name. Okay, and then these are the conditions that you are given if you are going to buy one of the franchise there. You just need to read it familiar. There's nothing really different from the normal franchise that we know. Yeah.
Sorry, Luz, I have the question on this franchise section. I don't know if right now is the right time or we wait until the end to ask the questions. Because what I'm struggling to make sense of is that if they don't control location and price, how do they make sure that these people are following? Because location, how do they make sure, for example, sometimes in franchises they make it seem like you cannot, like there cannot be 2 salons with the same name in a certain area, things like that, so that the competition is fair, things like that. And then the pricing, how do they know that they're not underpricing, and you have some unfair competition between not competition, but some franchisees are paying more royalties than others? Like, how do they know these things if they don't set certain benchmarks, like you can't do this below this amount? Or is these things not really important in terms of when we analyze the case study?
Yeah. So if you look at here, it says the franchise must agree to pay an initial fee, which they pay an ongoing royalty to the franchisee for the term of the franchisor. So in as much as the pre-scene is silent in terms of location and all that stuff, I think it's part of the feasibility study is to go and look to say, is there a current hair salon in that space? And then you look at maybe the number of people in that place and things like that before they set it up. It's not mentioned in the pre-scene, but those are the things that you can therefore use in your recommendations, given the unseen material that might be given, to say some of the challenges that this franchise model is giving is that it doesn't regulate in terms of the locations where you should operate, and they don't have maybe a proper guideline on the pricing. They allow you to charge, maybe it's because of how much is your cost of goods, how much are you paying from your suppliers, and things like that.
Okay, understood. Yeah. Thanks.
But then how do they try to regulate quality? They try to regulate quality from this. Can you see that? So they are very particular. In the next page, you are going to go into Trimayr. Then I'll come back to this. Franchises insist the use of approved suppliers of goods and services. Why? Because they are big on quality. So they use approved suppliers there. So again, supplier relationships, very, very important. They also are required to use approved suppliers of categories of salon furniture, fittings, cleaning products, and things like that. Why are they doing this? Obviously, they're trying to bring some uniformity in terms of when you walk into that salon, there is an element of uniformity because the furniture, the fittings is from the same recommended supplier. Although they don't make it like our McDonald's where it's almost the same, but there is uniformity in terms of quality and things like that.
Sorry,
good
Louis?
resale, yeah.
So the way this franchise is operating in terms of, looks like they're being standardized in terms of their operations. Would you say it's then like a profit center versus a revenue center?
Can you explain? Can you just elaborate a little bit there?
In terms of how they are, how their managers, or how the franchise performance is evaluated.
Yeah. So obviously, because as a franchise model, they pay that once-off fee when you join, and then you pay royalties. In each salon, they therefore make their own profits.
Okay.
Yeah. So what you make is like, yeah.
Go ahead, Louis. Sorry.
So I'm saying, so when you're running your business, you each over, maybe if there are 20, 30, each of them is going to make its own revenue based on the number of people coming to do their hairs and things like that. But then the royalties is the percentage of how much they make.
So
Okay.
I was wondering, in terms of Rio's question, right? I think it's specifically related to if franchises are considered as a revenue center or a cost center, right? And according to my understanding, when you look at financials on page 16, on their statement of profit or loss, you'll see that we get franchise royalties, which is revenue, but there's no cost related to that. So based on that, according to my understanding, it makes it a revenue center.
A revenue center. It makes, so again, what I need you to do, that approach that you're doing, is, remember I said when you write, when you're answering your question, the last thing that you must do is to motivate or to recommend your answer based on the information that is given in the pre-scene. So therefore, you can say based on that we have got that section in our financials clearly shows that our franchisee is a revenue center. That's what the examiner wants to hear from you. So we need to just extract information from our pre-scene. That is our recommendation that we give to the examiner. Not sure if I answered you there. Okay. So there's a bit of franchise here. Location, so we're talking about location earlier, Sumaya. Franchise can lease or buy premises of their choosing subjects to inspection. Remember what I was saying, to say the suitability and feasibility of that. So they're not going to open everywhere, but there is subject to inspection. So if it passes the inspection, then you can open your franchise and you can go ahead. If it doesn't, then it's not mentioned here, but it means if it's subject to inspection, the inspection can either pass or fail. So they can say, yes, you can go ahead. So there's still a control in terms of, there's a bit of control in terms of the location there. The pricing, they set their own prices, again, taking the market conditions. So they look at the demand and supply in that market. So you look at how many salons are in here. Are they up market? Are they mid market? or down market is very, very important. When you're doing your pricing, you consider demand and supply in that specific area that you operate. Okay, then a bit of the market there, 6 national chains of hair salon dressers. Then just a bit of info there. But what I like here is it tells you the how many salons that Trimayr Pop has got and how many Trimayr Sheen has got. But those are the 2 markets that they are operating in, the high market and the middle market. The Trimayr Sheen is the exclusive market, high end, and the Trimayr Pop is the middle market. There is no down market for Trimayr. Okay, so this is all about training. This is why I'm going to spend some time here on this one, because now we are talking about specific Trimayr, started by Magda Trimayr in 1960. So what I want us to do is to think about our SWOT, to think of our pastel as we go along, then we'll just populate it. So if we are told that this was started in 1960, what comment can we make on that?
It's a well-established brand.
Yes, they are well-established brand. Basically, I was doing some looking at how many years? 50 years ago, when they were established. So they are a well-established brand. They are well known in there. Now, she quickly established herself through creation of innovative new hairstyles. So from my theory, I would think of that these guys have got a first mover advantage. They are very, very innovative. And because of their first mover advantage, they managed to capture the aspect of these celebrities. And because they're dealing with celebrities, it speaks to that establishment of a strong brand there. So what I need you to think of here is this aspect of innovation. There could be questions based on innovation, introducing new products or going to new markets and things like that. There is a model that we can also refer to when it comes to strategies. There's a model that we can adopt when it comes to business strategies. There is this model here. It's called, put it here. Are you guys familiar with Ansoff matrix? Ansoff matrix?
I'm not.
Okay, anyone with an idea of Ansoff matrix? It talks about product development, market development, diversification. So just write it on a piece of paper. I think that is a very important model to know, because if Trimayr is going to grow, it's going to consider, there are 4 of them. It's going to look at 4 of those strategies. Should they go product development? Should they go market development? Should they go diversification? The 4th one just slipped my mind. Then it all goes down to say, okay, the use of celebrities from a marketing perspective. And then they became, because of celebrities, their designs and all that become very, very newsworthy. They say it became very, very news. People were reading about all these. Now, if you continue going, it says prove to be a capable business person and things like that. And they talk about upmarket salon here. The upmarket salon, which were branded Trimayr Sheen. So I need you all guys to think about pricing strategies. Pricing strategies for the Trimayr Sheen. Pricing strategies for this Trimayr Pop brand, something to think about as well. And something happened in 2003, they got listed. Trimayr was listed on Dasland Stock Exchange in 2003. It changes, obviously, once a company is listed, then it changes in some aspects of the business, although the owner is literally retired. Okay, so it says here in 2005, Trimayr board decided to shift the company from owning and operating its salons to mainly franchised operation. Then it went to 70 Trimayr salons and things like that, and da. So What do I want you to think of here? I need you to think of, if this business is going to change, they are going to grow, they are going to expand, they will need funding. And their sources of funding are going to be either debt or equity. So where do we get that information from? From our F2. F2 syllabus talks about debt and equity. Let's have a quick conversation. I need everyone in here. Let's talk about debt and equity. What are the different forms of debt, and how does equity work? How does debt and equity work? And let's also discuss some of the advantages and disadvantages of debt versus equity.
Debt, we have bank loans.
Yes, for bank loans, yeah.
And for equity, we can get shares as well from the public.
From public, yeah. So what you need to do is, if we are going to be going for bank loans, before we make any recommendation, I want us to, you need to look at the financials. What are our financials saying in terms of our debt? Do you have any borrowings at the moment? Is it too much or is it too little? Right? So that will determine our finance cost and things like that. And also, I also want to look at our current gearing. And our current gearing, we need to consider our current gearing if you are going to go with debt. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of using debt, given what we are seeing in the financials? That's where the difference comes. I would want you to just look at, okay, the advantage of debt, of a bank loan is easy to apply and things like that. Yes, that's perfectly fine. But from Trimayr perspective, given its model, what are the advantages of bank loan and what are the disadvantages of bank loans? And if you are going to be issuing shares, are we going to offer new shares, or are we going to offer what do you call it? Issuing shares to existing shareholders, right issue. It's something that we need to think about. If we are going to offer right issue, obviously, what is going to happen to the number of shares already in circulation? What are the pros, the benefits, and pros and cons of doing right issue? If are the new issues, what are the benefits, pros and cons of a new issue? So we need to go to our F2 there and look at that. Okay. Again, the board in 2005, when the board decided to shift their focus, what do you think was the underlying principle or the underlying reason for their shift? Was it pressure from shareholders, or was it just a change in terms of the direction of the company? That's where, again, stakeholder metrics comes into play. The power and influence of our stakeholders. Okay. And we need to look at, if you do some numbers, you will see that how much market share is owned by the Trimayr Pop, and how much is owned by Trimayr Shin. If you do the numbers, you can see Trimayr Shin has got about 15% of the shares of the stores, and the Pop has got about 68%, and the one that they own is all about 7%. Now, the question the examiner is interested in, the examiner is trying to look at, have you looked at that? If they've got a 7% of the saloons that they own, should they continue expanding into the saloons that they own, or should they literally complete? What if another company comes in and offer and give an offer to buy the saloons that they own? Should they let them go, or should they return them? Should they continue growing the owned saloon? Those are the potential. That's where the exam questions will come from. Now you need to give recommendation on that. Should they focus on the premium market, since they are already on the on 25%, grow it? So if you look at, there's another model that I need you to remember. This one here. I think from your operational level, you did this. Put it in the chat box. The BCG matrix talks about, remember the BCG matrix? Cash cows, stars, dogs, question marks.
Yes.
You remember that? Yeah. So you need to look at that. That 7%, is it still growing, or is just a question mark, or is a dog that we can let go? The shin is the market growing, then we could actually invest in that and try to grow. That's a premium market, and likely that our margins could be high. So we could be like really push on our on Trimayr shin to get more in that space. Again, if you go on this paragraph here, where is it? I need to go here. This paragraph talks about how they are operating. They use lease, and because they are using leases, if you are leasing, then you are not heavy in terms of the assets, property, plant, and equipment, and things like that. But what is the risk of using a model of leases? What if your lease is not renewed? Again, I remember I spoke about negotiation, the negotiation process that we need to be, it's a topic that might, a question that might come in because of the importance of the business model where we are not, the franchisor is recommending leases instead of owning the buildings that you are operating in. So it's another area where we might want to look at. Then if you go down a bit, there's the KPIs here. So the KPIs that we are given here, most of them we can see, guys, they are non-financial, right? So for me, it means the examiner might be keen on the financial aspect because we are given the non-financial. Average spend, number of new customers, etc., etc. So the examiner might be keen just to test you in terms of your knowledge of your financial and how they can be used by Trimayr. That's the key question is, how can they be used by Trimayr? There's a bit of information about all this. I'm going to skip that, read this on your own. Let's pause here. So we have given the board about the structure. So if you look at the board, this structure here, what can you comment on this on this balance of this board structure? What can you comment about this board? Your questions on corporate governance, your questions on ethics will likely emanate from this and other areas. That silence scares me, right? But what you can therefore say is, we can see we have got what here? Non-executive directors, and we've got executive directors, which is a good thing, right? We've got both. We've got five non-executive directors, and we've got 5 executive directors. Why do you think, as an organization, Trimayr, why do they need non-executive directors? Don't be tired, guys.
For objectivity.
For objectivity, okay. Busi, why do you think? I'm just gonna pick. I'm not putting you on the spot. I just want to pick your brains. Why do we need executive and non-executive directors? Erica, why you have something there?
Could we say for strategy? Sorry, could we say for strategy as well, from like having the input of people from outside the business?
Okay, I'm going to combine it with what Einstein said, independent of the decision made by the board, right? So the decision that are being made by the board, they need to be scrutinized and make sure that they are not free from bias and they are not just trying to meet their own personal objectives. So independence, of course.
If I may, I think one item or one issue might be for stakeholder representation, meaning in terms of shareholders as well.
In terms of stakeholder representation, okay.
Or
So we
maybe
can
they
see,
need some extra skills.
yeah, it could be. Yeah, it could be. They want extra skills in terms of, because remember, executive directors, they are involved in the day-to-day running of the business. But non-executive directors, they provide what I call a bird's eye view. They are not involved in every day, but they'll meet maybe once or twice a year, and they just look at what these guys are doing. They make the executive directors accountable, basically. They make the executive directors accountable. And again, these guys, they are also involved in determining the remuneration of the executive directors. They can't determine their own remuneration, otherwise they'll pay themselves lots and lots of money. But the comment that I want to put it there is that in the exam, what I could play around to the examiner is that there is a balance in terms of executive and non-executive directors, because the non-executive, they are always watching what they make our executive directors accountable, right? And also, but what a recommendation that I would do is to say, now that technology is is changing the way business is done, they might want to look at adding something in terms of IT. If their business information system is going to be collecting customer data, they might want to have someone who is responsible for cybersecurity or data protection somewhere there. So it's a recommendation. I think something that I can see missing in the tasks. If you look at the areas of responsibilities of the IT director, Joanne, artistic direction, production evaluation, Trimayr Academy, I don't see anywhere where they've someone who is going to be looking at data protection, cybersecurity, and things like that. Something that we want to add here. Why am I emphasizing on that? There will be a question, or there might be a question, which they just give you a tweak to what is happening here, or a scenario. The trigger might have something to do with the structure of this board, and then you'll be able to make some recommendation to say, on the face of it, it looks balanced, because they've got executive and non-executive directors. In the role, you explain the role of the executive directors and the role of non-executive directors. For me, that's very, very important. And on this one, that's where I'm going to add to end today. Business model. Like I said, I have looked at the previous past exam papers, and the business model features there. So anyone who have written again an exam before, they will tell you that there is question on business model in most of the trigger. But they don't ask you, sometimes they don't ask you so directly that you know that they're asking the business model. But there should be a trigger in the unseen material. There should be something that is telling you that they want you to discuss the business model. So let's look at this business model here. So the business model has got 4 main aspects. So from your E1, actually, E1, they introduced the concept of the business model. So the business model is about how do you define value as an organization? How do you create value, right? And how do you deliver value? And how do you capture value? So when you are given a question on the business model, you must just you take these 4 and make them your subheadings, your headings. Yeah, heading. And then always try to start by this opening liner. Literally copy it as it is from your pre-scene. Yeah, where it says Trimayr works closely with several stakeholders. That should be your opening. And then you go and further expand everything that you want to talk about there. So let's talk about defining value. So when you look at Trimayr, how do they deliver? How do they define value? How do they define value? Let's see who is here. Guys, we are almost to just say something, guys, so that we can enjoy this. Yeah.
They define value by offering like quality through a reputable brand, and they further work on that by promoting their brand on social media, like TV series, and also they also further on create value by also offering products of a certain quality.
Okay, so creating value, I think most of what you say, CIMA, is on the creation of value, that they create value by making sure that they deliver high quality hairstyles, right? And they actually offer customer satisfaction. So customers are willing to pay premium for their Trimayr brand because of the quality that they've got. So, and they are always available to meet the customer needs. That's how they create value. They offer excellent service, of course. Let's look at other aspects. So creating value, I think Sumaya have just given us how they create value. Let's look at deliver. How do they deliver value? How do they deliver value?
Okay. So they deliver value by obvious. Does anyone else want to go? Okay. They deliver value. They deliver value by being in two different sections of the market, whether it being on your pop or your sheen. They also in very convenient locations like your towns and your cities, which makes it easy for people that are shopping or in working
Yeah,
districts to have
yeah.
access to them. They also have good operational hours, which allow or accommodate a lot of their markets.
Yeah, yeah. So their franchise model, they are available in different locations. They've got they capture the middle income, they capture the high income. They are in shopping malls and every. That's how they deliver their value. In terms of capturing residual value, they look at generating profits for their shareholders, for the franchise owners, and also for the single salon that operate under Trimayr. That's how they capture residual value. Now, the examiner knows they've given you this, right? But they will ask you, they will still ask you on that. How they normally ask you is they are going to give you a scenario. And when they give you a scenario, they want you therefore to see, does it fit into this business model? So where you come in is you are going to make your recommendation to say, okay, what we want to do here, yes, it does fit into the business model. Now you need to explain, ask yourself, does it help us to create value? Does it help Trimayr define value? So ask yourself each one, where does it fit in all these tick boxes, and you tick. But when you answer those questions, don't be one-dimensional. So don't just say, yes, it fit into that and that and that. No. Normally, they want the questions depending on the verb that is used. They can say evaluate or discuss or critique or whatever. Look for that verb, right? Normally, the verb that they use will tell you if you're going to be, how you're going to approach the question. Normally, you need to argue to say, okay, it's going to help us in this, but on the other side, it might not fit in these aspects. That's the most common one. So what I want us to do now, I shared a question with you, right? Let's look at this question. Let me open it. Let me quickly open this. Where is it? Something I want to do here. What is it? Then stop sharing. I want us to look at this question here, and then let's try to answer it. I'm just going to throw you at the deep end, guys. It is what it is. Right. So let's look at this question. So let's look at this question. I gave you this so you can open it from your computer. So this is the question, section 1. You are given 45 minutes, right? 45 minutes to answer this question. So this is the question. This is the task A, task B, and below it, we have got our reference material. This is our reference material. So there is a proposal here. Trimayr prop. So it's on Trimayr prop. So it means when you are answering this question, you should be focusing on Trimayr prop. So there's Trimayr prop, there's Trimayr Sheen, etc. This specific one is on Trimayr prop. But the business model, we know it. So there's a proposal here to set up virtual reality VR facilities in all the Dazzland salons. We will develop a state-of-the-art way for customers to glimpse at what the future holiday could be like. By wearing the VR headset, they can visualize the look of their future hairstyle in a way that never could before, in a truly immense way. VR is likely to have a profound impact on high visuals and community-driven hair industry. This promises to be a valuable tool in helping customers to pick their new hairstyle and book an appointment with Trimayr without delay. So that's the trigger. So when you talk the trigger, this is the material that we don't have. So now we are given that, and you've got this question here. It's 11:14, guys. So we are going to finish at 12. So I want to give you 15 minutes to look at this question and to just write down some points that you are going to be discussed there. Then we are just going to do a round table. Each one tell us how are we going to answer this question, and then we'll finish from there. Can we try that? Silence is golden. Can we try that, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Taki, let's go for it. It is what it is. Let's say this is the exam day. Boom, it comes. Task 1 on the screen. You can't run away. You have to write something. So can you give it a try, guys? Can you give it a try? It's a typical exam standard question. But again, I want you to see where I was saying I need you to forget about focusing on the nitty-gritty of P2, E2, F2. You can see there's no P2, E2, F2 there. It's real stuff. You are sitting there working for Trimayr. Can we do this? Let's try this. We are just going to do 50. Let's do 15 minutes. Let's just put a brief. It's 45 minutes under exam condition, but I just want you to come with a brief of task A and task B, what would put you there. I'll mute myself for 15 minutes.
Sorry, Lucy, doing the first one. Okay.
Let's do this task A, task A and task B. Not in detail.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Lovely. Well done, guys. I know I just threw you at the deep end there, but that's how it's going to work on the exam day. You never know what is going to be thrown your way. So, as we navigate through this, it's good to throw each other at the deep end and see how quick we can swim. So, let's do this. I'm just going to go around so that you can just give us your thought on that. We are given that here. Remember, I was saying Megan Conner is the senior finance manager and we have got the finance director. And I clearly said you are likely going to get Megan Conner to ask you for something. That's exactly what is happening here. He's saying the board, which is we said we are on management level, we are going to implement or recommend what has been passed by the board. And we know our board, we looked at it for the executive directors. They have made a decision to introduce virtual reality here. So now task A is saying, discussing this step, give your opinion on whether you think adding virtual reality to each store will be consistent with our business model. And if we are going to do so, we recommend with reasons the best approach in selecting what kind of managers are going to be selected. Okay, Einstein, just give us your overview.
All right. Okay. So in the subtask A, okay. So I looked at it using the business model, which is defining the value, creating, delivering, and capturing residual value. So my first point in defining the value is that in that VR, what they're saying is that they are establishing a state-of-the-art VR device so that customers can see their styles beforehand. And I think that this is in line with what Trimayr is doing, because they mentioned that they are in the forefront of the hairdressing industry. So implementing the state-of-the-art VR device will be in line with Trimayr's value definition.
Okay, lovely. Love that. I love that. In terms of defining value. So again, the good thing is that check those four: defining value, creating value. That's what your headings. And exactly like what Einstein say, I can't agree with that. But what I'm just going to add that is that I'm going to start by mentioning to say the core. What is the core business for Trimayr? Their core business, they are selling quality hairstyles through their franchise network. That's their core business. So they've got a franchise network and they've got their own salon. So their core business is selling hairstyles, not VR. However, now virtual reality, what it does, it is not necessarily what we sell, but it adds or it enhances the value that we are delivering to our customers. So because we are saying they're on the forefront of technology, they are coming up with this, therefore it is in line. So in summary, what I can therefore say is that allowing customers to immerse themselves with that virtual experience, it allows Trimayr to present its products in a better way. It can actually allow customers to see what they can expect. And then again, remember now, their prop, Trimayr prop, it just helped to give them a good first impression. I spoke about that earlier. So yes, it does. Outside, it does add value. So I'll take that, and then we'll just beef it up a little to get it more meaningful. So let's hear from the second one. We've done value, creating value. We're defining value. Let's go on value creation. Busi, what would you put on value, on creating value?
So I said for creating value, because customers are prepared to pay premium prices, a virtual experience like hair previews would enhance customer experience. Then I just then had like a question around, is this suitable for Trimayr Pop or Sheen? Because Pop would be your standardized salons as compared to customers who are willing to pay higher premiums for Trimayr Sheen. So yeah, I think that those are my questions around it. But for those customers that are prepared to pay premium pricing, a virtual experience would enhance the experience.
Okay. Right. Erica, what's your perspective on this one? Creating value creation?
For the creating value. So for me, I'm more concerned because we like quality. Their business model is quality. So now with the virtual reality, will we still be able to give quality pictures, and then will we be able to deliver that picture? That's a concern for me.
I like that thinking now that you have the perspective that you have brought in, Erica. Remember, I said now, to say when you are now addressing this, we could therefore combine to say virtual reality. It's not something that we sell. We don't sell it. We sell hairstyles, right? But virtual reality enhances. But I need you to end in that value creation. I need you to always add that sentence to say, yes, virtual reality is consistent with our business model. Why? Because it's allowing us to it allows us to customers to actually visualize what their hairstyles will look like and things like that. But also add that to say the challenge with virtual reality is that because it gives us like high definition enhanced images. Are we going to be able to match that? Taking everything in the pre-scene, given that at some point you have got apprentice, we are still new and less skilled, and also given that the hair salons are allowed to recruit their own hairdressers. If you are running a hair salon, you are likely to cut costs. Right? And one of the ways to reduce your cost is not to hire the highly experienced, will be expensive. Hairdressers will be expensive. Now, if you have got the prop, which is the standard one, middle market, you are not going to go for the top hairdressers, but you're going to come up with, are they going to match that? That's a challenge that is going to. And in your answer, guys, you don't have just, this is what I want to emphasize. You don't have to say, yes, it's consistent. Yes, it's consistent. However, then you put that to say, because you're telling Megan Corner to say, actually, you know what, Megan, this looks good because it enhances what we are selling, which is hairstyles and things like that. But take cognizance that we might create a challenge whereby we create this beautiful hairstyle that's going to be done, but we fail to match it. If we do so, it's going to impact on the reputation of our service offerings. All that should be in your answer. I'm not sure if it makes sense, guys. So don't be just one-dimensional, but look at both sides where it's going. You can also mention what issues that they are going to emanate. If you look at those 7 golden rules that I shared earlier, we said, why is this information given, and what are the key issues that are going to be coming from there? So virtual reality, a good innovation, good technology, we are on the forefront, we are delivering quality, but what are the key issues that are going to come out there? Are we going to be able to deliver, to match what virtual reality is going to come up with? It might need us to therefore look at our staffing and things like that. Okay, so that's on value creation. So creating value, the other one is, we said creating value, defining value, creating value, and delivering value. Delivering value, what do we put there under delivering value? Who wants to go there? Let's look at Isona. What do you put under delivering value? What do you put under delivering value? What's on your take?
Okay, so they deliver value by providing convenience for customers. So I thought with a VR experience, it would also enhance in terms of preventing delays, because people would be sure of what hairstyle they want. And also it would then also prevent customers from having to come back for any corrections or dissatisfaction. Not sure if it fits well there, but yeah, that's what I thought. I don't think it impacts it that much, except the preventing of delays.
Okay. Martha, what would you want to take on delivering value?
Okay. I said the same thing regarding the fact
Martha,
that
you've got flu, right?
yeah, I've got flu. Can you hear me?
Okay, I'm trying to hear you. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so it will also save time, like she said, in terms of, you get to understand exactly the kind of hairstyle that you're looking for. Yeah. So
Okay.
that, yeah.
Ria, add something there. Add your thoughts, Ria.
Sorry, with regards to virtual reality.
Yeah, delivering value under in our business model.
Sorry, I just need to recap for a moment. I got distracted.
Okay, no, okay. So let me jump in there, then I'll bring you in later. So yeah, so basically on delivering value, what we
Louis,
need
can
to
I
get.
ask you a question? I'm
Yes,
sorry for
yes.
disturbing you. So
Yeah,
in
no,
terms
yeah.
of delivering value, what you mentioned on creating value in terms of when you spoke about the negative part of it, if we'll be able to create, what virtual reality gives the customer, right?
Yeah.
And I actually use that under delivering value and also referred to the blog by our apprentice that says, make me look like this.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
think virtual reality kind of creates that, right? Make me look like this.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, is it the right way of thinking of it? Because you brought it up under creating value.
Under creating value. So I wouldn't be too much concerned on where. So if you put it under delivering value. So and we've mentioned it under where did you mention it? It's under under creating value, right? So you said we mentioned it under creating value.
Yes. You mentioned it under creating value, and I used it under delivering value.
Yeah, so what I would do is under creating value, I would say virtual reality, what it does, it allows us, our customers, to have kind of a glimpse, a clear picture of what they want to look like, just like what that person, the person would come and sit and say, I want a hairstyle like this newsreader, right? So it kind of enhances that. But
sorry to interject. It's like a free consultation of what the intended hairstyle would look like for the customer.
You mean what VR would bring up?
In terms of delivering value, where they will get a free consultation in terms of what their desired hairstyle would be. Because if they regularly need to cut their hair, that would mean that they get to consult virtually instead of going in store.
Yeah, but when it comes to delivering value, what we need to be careful is we are now delivering, right? So the question is, how does Trimayr deliver value? So what they do, how they deliver value is, I'm going to try to come to you as well, Taki, is they deliver value by offering different hairstyles at different points, right? That's how they do it. So what they do, they invest in systems. They invest in technology, and they maintain this strong network of franchises. So they make sure that everyone else who's looking for a hairstyle is able to visit one of their franchise networks. There is convenience that they deliver by making sure they are in the places where the customers can find them easily throughout the Dazzland. So different prices, different price points, high end, low end, different locations. You can easily find us in terms of convenience. And what now, the customer experience is the driving force why Trimayr is considered virtual reality is because of customer experience. How do we improve our customer experience? So therefore, let's consider technology in form of real virtual reality. So in terms of how they are currently operating, virtual reality is not going to change anything. It's not going to impact anything in a negative way, should I call it. But it's actually going to give that positive impact in terms of an experience to our customers. So I would say it therefore transforms the way our service would appeal and appear to our customers. So it's not going to replace our business model, but it's going to enhance what we are actually offering. It's going to enhance or hairstyles and things like that. Okay, so the last one is capturing value. If we go to our business model, capture value. I'm cognizant of time. We need to finish at 12 sharp. Capturing value. Who wants to go on that one? I am going to bring in.
Sorry to interject.
Jump in. Yeah.
Okay, so I have about 3 points here on capturing value. So the first one would be premium price consultation. Maybe Trimayr can look at starting charging for consultation because of what VR would basically bring to the customer. It can also capture value through increased bookings due to more confident decisions that are made by the customer and also the stylist that will be working on the hair. And then I also have customer retention, meaning when customers use this a lot, they might want to always come back because they get a sense of how they will look like before the stylist starts. So those are the 3 that I have there. Thanks.
Okay. Sumaya, you want to come in there?
Okay.
Tagi, do you want to go? You can say.
Yeah, you can go first.
Okay. Oh, go ahead, Sumaya.
Okay, no, with me, it was more from a negative standpoint. Sorry, I keep cutting and I don't know what's happening, but my negative standpoint was that it might be more costly to maintain these virtual realities implementation as they go by, not only with maintenance, but the implementation of them and how willing these new franchisees will be in order to implement and maintain it, and that could possibly decrease how much we actually earn or something like that. Am I in the right frame of mind?
You are on the. I like the last part, so I need you to do this, guys. Before you give me the answer, read what is under. Go into the. Let's go on to the business model and read what it says there. It says most of Trimayr salons are owned. Am I sharing? Let me see. Can you see my?
Yes, you are sharing.
Yeah. So it says most of Trimayr salons are owned and are operated by franchises. Growth is largely self-financing because franchises are responsible for acquiring and fitting on their own salons. Franchise salons pay royalties based on the revenue in return for the right to operate under Trimayr branding. Most successful salons generate higher revenues, so pay larger royalties. So all your answers under each of those blocks, I need you to construct them based on what is written in the business model here.
So, Louis, on my side on this one, right, I said, well, this is with the assumption that we will be charging for VR, right? So I said VR will bring in a new revenue stream that will attract customers, and this will increase our market share.
Okay, now right. So you could remember the VR is that device that you literally put on your phone on your whatever to see whatever. So some companies, some salons might want to offer it for free. It depends on how you want as the owner, or if you want to put it at a cost, but it's going to affect. If you want to charge, then it's going to affect your prices. So you need to be very careful if you're going to add a fee. That it might, if you get what I'm saying, it might throw you out because you are
So I do get what you are saying, but at the same time, it's not as if for us to get these devices will be at no cost, right? And at the end of the day, what we want to do is to increase the shareholders' wealth. So if we are just going to spend on VR and we offer it as a free service, then it's going to impact on our profitability, right?
Yeah, but let's think of this one guy. Let's just take a generic business, any business. You go in there, let's say these guys they sell flowers, right? And you go in there, you want to buy your flowers, and you get to the reception and you sit there, and the receptionist says, "Can I offer you coffee?" Right? and they give you coffee. Do they sell coffee?
No.
No, right?
No.
But what does coffee does? What does that offering of coffee does to you when you are going to buy flowers?
It
It
enhances the
improves the
The
service.
customer experience as well.
exactly. It enhances the customer experience, right? That's what we are trying to do. So when it comes to capturing value, like I'm saying, I need you to stick to what is on the business model here. Focus on to say, we Trimayr capture value by providing their franchises and their customers with value for money, right? So when they are offering value for money, what it allows Trimayr to get to capture what we call extra value by getting more royalties, right? So if more customers are going to be impressed by virtual realities, they are going to come in and more and more come back for repeat hairstyles. In that aspects, Trimayr is going to benefit from increased royalties.
Can
And
I
what it
ask you a
does is,
question,
yeah,
Louis?
I also wanted to come
Sorry,
in.
they
You can go ahead.
they are considering to implement this in their 40
yeah,
Trimayr salons that they own. So this has
yes.
nothing to do with royalties.
Yeah, but if they are going to, they can implement. It says the question was saying implementing across all their salons to each store. It says the question. Let's go discussing the statement and giving your opinion whether you think adding a virtual reality to each store will be consistent with Trimayr business model.
Okay,
So we
so
are
if you
assuming,
read the sorry, Louis, if you
Yeah,
read the
also,
very first sentence, it
yeah,
actually says that in all 40 Trimayr pop salons, these are the salons that they own. It's not the
okay,
franchise.
yeah, I
okay.
also
So
want to ask that because it appears as if they are only focusing on the 40 saloons and not the entire
the
500, yeah, the entire pop saloons.
Okay, so therefore, if that is the case, I hear what you're saying. If that is the case, what it means is I've just looked at from all the stores. In that is case, what it does, it means VR. It gives a new experience, and that new experience therefore allows them to maybe to charge a little bit more, and it allows the customers to have that experience that they can come back. So once you have a good experience, the probability of you coming back is going to increase. And if you go back to the KPIs, we looked at we said you can look at customer satisfaction score and you can look at the customer lifetime value. Where customer lifetime value, we're looking at how much we are going to generate during that period when a customer is with us. So VR, what it does, it helps us to increase the customer lifetime value. So that's how I'll put across, let's say, how do we capture value? How do you capture residual value? Is that our revenue is going to have it might have an increase in our revenue. Why? Because VR increase the customer experience, which allows us to play around with our prices, increase our price. I don't want to say premium because premium is used in the Trimayr Shin, but it allows us to maybe add a little bit of price there and then have an impact on our customer lifetime value. The longer a customer stays with us, the more revenue we are going to collect from that customer.
Sorry, Lewis. I'm
Yes.
sorry to treadle back a bit, but on
Yeah.
Taki's point, because I was also of the mind that the VR we would have to charge at least an extra fee because it would cost you certain amounts to implement the technologies. So now, I understand that you can say it fits in capturing, but I also saw it fits enough for creating because the business model essentially says that Trimayr's customers are prepared to pay premium prices in order to obtain the quality. So that's where I fit in the fact that customers, because they are prepared to pay higher prices to see these hair previews, they are prepared to pay so that they are able to, well, it would enhance the customer experience. So wouldn't we say that also fits into creating the creation part of the business model?
Yeah, like I said, if you put it there, if you put it in that space, what you need to therefore is to back it up with, I think I mentioned earlier, say, now go into the pre-scene and get a sentence that backs up or that supports the argument that you are bringing forth. If you have got that support, motivation, that support, then surely you can put it there because you have supported it with evidence from the pre-scene. So that's why I'm saying there will be hundreds of correct scripts out there, millions of thousands of correct scripts written differently, but what makes you to get points from the examiner is you have given me a point here. Have you supported it with evidence from the pre-scene? Have you told me what Trimayr is going to do under this delivering, capturing, etc., etc.? So if you have got supporting evidence, yes, I would say put it there comfortably. Okay. Right. So just oh no. We've got 5 minutes. We are not going to do a round table on this one. The part B. Nosan, how would you answer part B? Present, please also recommend with reason the best approach for selecting Trimayr saloon managers for secondment to the project and assessing their performance. How would you approach that one?
Oh my goodness, I ran out of time. I didn't get to section B.
Okay. Anyone who attempted section B, guys? Jackie?
Yeah, I did. I did attempt it. And I think the first thing that came to mind, because on this one, we are specifically looking at the 40 salons that we own, which has KPIs. And I said, based on the highest scoring salons would be the ones that are considered for this, right? And also I said we can also use our BIS system to see the type of feedback that we get after the implementation of virtual reality.
Okay, I agree with you, but I just want to add something there when it says we're going to select the highest scoring saloons. But the question says the approach for selecting saloon managers, right? So I'm going to say the managers, or the managers with the highest scoring.
Okay.
If you
Point
get what I'm
taken.
saying.
Point taken.
We are specific to that what the examiner is asking for, right? And we can also consider managers with experience with technology would be another good aspect to consider, and also maybe experience with managers with good experience with people, because they have to now train their staff, etc., on the staff and the customers coming to the salon to use this VR. Okay, I think we did well.
Louis, sorry, I've got a question which I like, a point which I thought of, like seconding someone, obviously, in looking at the skills and expertise of those people that are going to be seconded. The gap that it also creates, wouldn't we also like have to consider if we'd be able to fill in that gap while that saloon manager is away?
What do you think of this one, guys? So if they are going to be seconded for this project, then they are going to leave their jobs and to leave and go for that project. Would that be a concern from a business perspective? Think of where you work now. So there's sometimes when your finance manager goes for training, does it affect the entire department functionality?
It depends on the, like I say, depending on the skill set of the team.
Yeah.
If the team is like, well, the experience is well distributed, they'll function well. But like,
so I'm just poking it so that we can have that discussion to a little bit broader, to say let's think practically, to say you are my finance manager, and we maybe have got a team of 8 people, you that work under you, and they say, guys, I'm going for a 3-day workshop on using technology.
Nothing.
So I think
it's too short. But that's like, for me, like that point, it was a point for me, like in terms of the experience, the expertise, and the skills of the ones that remain, as well as.
I think we will be diverting from the question requirement, but the question requirement is please recommend with reason the best approach. So if we are going to be selecting Trimayr salon managers for secondment, what is the best approach? So we want to look at those salons which are performing well, right? We look at their performance. We look at those managers that have got good people skills. How do we know that? It also says, and then assessing their performance. So assessing their performance, we could use a 360, right? A 360 is when, you know how 360 feedback is done, like 360 performance appraisals. You evaluate your manager evaluate you. That's where you see if someone has good people skills. Because if the staff saying, oh, Sumaya, she's a good manager, good guidance, good leadership, good motivation. So we say, okay, she has got good people skills based on the 360. So we can therefore second her, because when she comes back, she's able to impact a knowledge to the other, able to train other people, customers, etc., etc. So level of technology, skills, performance in your salon, and things like that. Yeah, you want to say something?
Can I just check something, Lewis? Because I've got this question a little bit different, and maybe it might be the English. So just want to check if I understand it correctly, because it says, please also recommend what reasons the best approach for selecting salon managers for secondment to this project. And then it says, then assessing their performance. So then that last part, is it assessing their performance while seconded, or is it assessing their performance before we select them? Because I got it a little bit different in that we're going to assess their performance while they are seconded.
And no, not while they're seconded, but their performance. We are going to assess their performance. They've gone for this project, they come back, and then we assess their performance.
Okay, no. So it is the English. Okay, no.
So again, my recommendation always, guys, to be on the exam day. Thank you so much for that one. Read that question more than once, twice, 3 times. It means 4 times before you start typing there to get exactly. But the English, for real, it is British. It is very, yeah. Anyway, any more questions, guys, before we round it off here?
Yes, I do have a question.
Yes, let's
wait, Taki, let me just ask this question, then you know yours, because I feel that he didn't answer. I didn't get the one on the capturing of residual value, and I just want to understand if my logic is actually making sense. Right. So for me,
on which part?
On the capturing of residual value for because you remember I said that with the maintenance and then the implementation, then you said you need to relate it back to what's actually there. So my standpoint was at the fact that, okay, what if we don't charge an additional amount? We incurring more costs financially by implementation and maintenance. And currently, for us to implement this type of project, looking at how our cash position is not also, so it decreased, but it didn't decrease a lot. We might have to go source finance just to support this project. So, and we don't exactly have a very good gearing ratio. So that's where I was coming from. Like, it will cost us a lot more in terms of finance in order to implement it, and we're not even going to charge for it because it's nowhere spent. So
okay, so this I'm going to answer you. For this question, I hear what you're saying, but if that would be a different question that the examiner can ask you in terms of, we want to think of it. We want to introduce, the board has made a strategic decision to introduce virtual reality. Now we are looking at different options to finance this. Then they can ask you on that. It's a different questions on financing. That's where you can bring in, look at your financial and say, oh, our gearing is not so good. So it's as much as a good enhancement to what our offerings, but it would further impact our gearing. So I would look at from that point. It's a financing option where it will be a different question altogether. But to coming back to say, if we don't charge for virtual reality, which is this case, Priscilla is silent about it. Still, yes, it's going to increase by getting it in. But remember, it's going to enhance our experience. It can. That means it can trigger a good brand reputation in the market, and we get more traffic into our salons, and our revenue is going to increase. So if our revenue is going to increase, are we going to be worried too much about that slight increase in cost? There's going to be an impact on our revenue? It's a question that we might say that might not be a big concern.
Okay.
And again,
Okay,
Sumaya, remember the question is asking, is it consistent with our business model? Right. So is it consistent with our business? So we still need to maintain, say, if you feel it is, yes, it's consistent. However, it might come at a cost of investing the VIR. So you can always add that extra if you want to bring in the aspect of cost. But the question is it consistent with Trimayr business model?
Okay. Okay. Understood. Thank you.
Taki, you had one burning question?
No,
We
it
are
was
6
not a
minutes
burning
over. We are
question.
six minutes over. Okay,
No, mine doesn't take long. I just wanted to ask you if you'll be sharing how this section 1 was answered.
Yes, I can do that here.
Yeah,
So let's do this,
that's
guys. Let's do this. I want to challenge you guys to complete task 2, 3, and 4. Email it, right? And then in the next session next week with Farai, I'm not going to have a Farai with Farai, then you discuss we didn't do much of this work, but it's those are basic things. So you therefore share the answers. I don't want to answer the share. I can give you the answers for this section only, but I want you to do section 2, 3, 4, and then I've got the full detailed solution for this. I'll share it with you. Let's do that deal. I think it's a good deal. So give a go at it. Email it to me by Friday, and then Farai will go through section 2, 3, and 4, and then share the again. He's going to go into today. We didn't go into this part. So we are going to go into this part. I think Sumaya mentioned something about it. Farai is going to look at the statement of profit and loss, and it's also going to look at the income statement, and it's going to look at all the stuff, and then we take it from there. Right. Thank you so much, guys, for taking some time on this Sunday morning, and have a good one. And thank you so much, and goodbye.
Thank you, Louis. Okay, bye.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Louis.
bye.
You bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
bye, bye.